Would you believe that an angel lived at the Pentagon? What if there was proof, photographic proof taken by a former Air Force photographer, and a statement from a Navy man who worked for Project Blue Book? Hi, my name is Craig Campobasso, and I've worked behind the scenes in movies and television for over 30 years. I am the filmmaker behind bringing this book to the screen, Stranger at the Pentagon. Harley Byrd, nephew of Admiral Richard E. Byrd, was an employee of the branch of the United States Air Force called Project Blue Book. Started in 1952, it studied UFOs and extraterrestrial life. Mr. Byrd confirms the arrival of the extraterrestrial in the book's foreword. In mid-March 1957, we received an urgent message from the Alexandria Police Department. The message indicated that two of their on-duty police officers had picked up an alien who had landed some 14 miles south of Pentagon Boulevard, and the occupant was transported to the Pentagon to meet with the Undersecretary of Defense, and then was shuttled underground to meet with President Eisenhower and Vice President Richard Nixon. The meeting lasted for nearly an hour, and then the alien visitor was put on VIP status and was shuttled back to the Pentagon, where he spent the night in the Army reception office. The alien's name was Valiant Thor. Harley Byrd also said that Valiant Thor was labeled the space emissary by the Department of Defense, and that the landing of Valiant Thor is perhaps the first documented landing of a human-type alien by military officials. Valiant Thor lived at the Pentagon from March 16, 1957 through March 16, 1960. He came with a divine design for mankind and asked President Eisenhower to implement it throughout the United States, then the world. In December 1959, knowing his presence on Earth was shrouded in government secrecy, Valiant Thor contacted Nancy Warren, a high-level clearance secretary at the Pentagon, who in turn contacted Dr. Frank Stranges, who then met with Valiant Thor. Their friendship lasted until Dr. Frank's death in November of 2008. Dr. Frank published Stranger at the Pentagon in 1967. It has been a UFO classic ever since. I met Dr. Frank in 2002 and was already a fan of his book. I had the sincere privilege of sitting with him for many years while writing the screenplay to Stranger at the Pentagon. I want to personally thank you for watching. Let's all support Valiant Thor and his mission to assist mankind, and also honor Dr. Frank's legacy. It's time for the light to be brought back into this world. So, I hope to see you all on board Victor 1 in the movies. Now, here's a short clip of Dr. Frank talking about his first meeting with Valiant Thor on the program Let's Talk Paranormal with host Tracy Austin.
Welcome to another Let's Talk Paranormal, and boy do we have a show for you today. Every single one of us has some kind of a story to share. But for my special studio guest today, Dr. Frank Stranges, he has a rather unique story to tell, because during 1950s, he claims to have met a man from Venus. Yes, you heard me correctly, a man from Venus named Val Thor. And guess what? It's all documented in this book, Stranger at the Pentagon. And in it, Dr. Frank tells us exactly who Val Thor is, why he's here, and there's even photographs to prove his existence. Dr. Frank, thank you for joining us today.
Thank you, Tracy.
This really is a real-life day the Earth stood still, isn't it?
Yes, plus. And here, coming toward me with his right hand outstretched, the man whose picture I've been carrying around with me for over a year.
Wow.
He said, "Hello, Frank, how are you?" And I thought, how in the Sam Hill does he know my name? And he knew from that time forward, the moment I touched his fingers, his skin was as soft as a baby.
Right.
And I did turn his hand over. He had no fingerprints on either hand, as bald as a peeled boiled egg. And I questioned him on that later, which he told me. And he asked me questions, just a few questions, but I asked him more questions. And he told me more about my own life than my parents and grandparents put together, which I verified later on. Mm-hmm. I said, "What is your name?" He said, "Valiant Thor."
There's something special about Val that, you know, you've already mentioned about having no fingerprints.
Yes.
He has no navel.
No, he has no navel and he has no fingerprints. This is why I believe he falls in the category of a created being, just like an angelic being. Mm-hmm. And he's unique in his way, believe you me. And the other members of his crew and the members of his staff, they all have navels.
Right. But being a created being, of course, he wouldn't.
But they don't have any fingerprints either.
Right.
Unique in that manner.
Wow. Let's take a look at the next picture and see what we have.
This is Commander Valian Thor. That's exactly what he looked like when the photo was taken by Algid Roberts some years before, and that's exactly what he looks like today. He hasn't changed one iota.
Val, just getting back to Val, where is he today?
Valian Thor today is on board Victor 1, his spacecraft, not too far from the waterline of Lake Mead, Nevada, not too far from Las Vegas. He's there with his entire complement.
Right. And I believe that in your book you have a map of where Lake Mead is.
The area, yes.
Right.
We also have a sketch of the interior of the ship.
Right. And is the ship underneath the waterbed? Is it on
It's
top?
right on the shoreline. Now, it's surrounded by a force field, and the only way you could possibly find that ship is if you look for a circle of dead insects, but the wind would probably drive them away by the time you got there.
Right. So is there a depression there, sort of like a crop circle depression? Or?
You won't see it.
You wouldn't see it?
No, because it's heavy gravel.
Wow. Well, Dr. Frank, I have to thank you for coming on the show today.
My pleasure.
There have been still so many questions that we haven't been able to ask you today, but hopefully you'll come back.
I most certainly will.
And we'll ask you more.